And for those that are here, they're on the second page, kind of second and third page from back in June. So we got one motion.
I'll support.
Okay, so second by Sandy. So I guess it's even for me a great opportunity to re-glance at them and see if there was anything, I don't remember anything that needed to be adjusted, unless anybody saw a correction, such as who was here, or the dog day. I'd be interested to hear about that. Hemlock Park, pickleball. Okay, we have the smoking. Yeah, thank you for including that smoking ordinance on the back. Cool. So, any changes or anything that anybody discussion on the minutes? Okay.
Not on the minutes. There was an email that went out. I don't know if this would be general business, about the website being updated.
So we should definitely get to that then,
Okay,
maybe
yeah,
after,
yeah.
just so we can kind of get the minutes approved if possible, and then that's something that should be definitely talked about. So I guess we take a, vote that all in favor can raise their hands. And, abstention, Foster, or raising hand?
sorry.
Okay. And for those that are not here, that was unanimous vote to support the the June meeting minutes. So, yeah, since we have this public comment not related to the agenda, which allows for multiple things, and be interested in if you wanted to bring that up, and if we think it needs to be addressed later on, we can always do that. But you were mentioning the website, the Big Rapids Park and Rec website?
Mhm.
Okay. What were you?
There was an email that went out that it was updated. And I wasn't sure if the members on the board were also updated.
Oh, like who's on there?
Like the roster of the Park and Rec Board?
We can check into that and
Yeah,
if it needs
I
to be
didn't know
updated.
where
we
on
can do.
here, I just,
Sure.
that popped into my head.
Yep, not a problem.
That's a good point.
And this is, I have one quick little public comment not related to the agenda, but this would be an opportunity after that if either of you, any of the three of you would like to say anything. I wanted to take just a brief opportunity, to recognize and acknowledge that, the community as well as the pool, the Park and Rec, we all, had a big loss this past week with Pat Haran passing, and I just think it, is important to acknowledge that a lot of what we've done over the decades has been in support of the pool, the different members, and I know she's been here and had so many reports about the seasons and just other things that she's been involved with. So, I don't know if any of you were able to make it to the funeral or not, but she said that'll be a big loss, big miss in the community. So we just honor, Pat and everything that she's done to make this community a water safe and a really good community. So I just want to take that opportunity. But was there anything that any of you that you see not on the agenda that you wanted to share?
Nope.
Okay.
We're just observers.
Yeah.
I just want to back up what you just said. Rapids lost one of their finest as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I sat down there many times and watched proceedings. I watched kids leave that pool and go hug Miss Horn.
Mm-hmm.
She did a lot. And according to her brother, when she was over at Custer, she helped clothe some of those kids that didn't have a winter hat. Goodness of Pat Horn can't be measured.
Yeah.
She was one fantastic lady and loved those kids. That's all you can say. Her heart was there with them, so she will be certainly missed. I was at the funeral. It was
Beautiful.
it was a beautiful service.
Yeah, Father Jagger does a really nice job with his funeral services.
It was beautiful, and it went along with what has been in the Pioneer. And I stopped in at the Pioneer yesterday maybe and thanked the young gentleman that wrote the article. He pegged her good.
Yeah. Yeah.
She will be missed.
and most communities don't see somebody, dedicate, whether it's for pay or whether it's, just volunteering, like more decades than many of us have been alive.
60 years.
60 years. I mean, I'm feeling old and I'm just turning 50 and I'm just thinking there's very little I can say that I've done for 50 years of my life other than breathing and talking and being a heron. I don't know. So, but yeah. So just wanted to myself acknowledge on behalf of the board that's, we see that on the general business, the pool's going to be talked about and that'll be more looking back at the season. But I just wanted on behalf of us to acknowledge that.
Thank you for that.
Was there any other public comments, from anybody before we go to communications and then general business? Shall we, do you want to go right into general business? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Happy to do so. So the first item that we have to discuss is the pool, and just like you had stated, that is in fact what we're gonna go over is the success of the pool season for 2024. In your packet, you have a write-up that Josh provided. It's also been, that same report has been provided to the city commission. And I would like to just remind you all that you're invited to come to the city commission meeting, which is this coming Monday, at 6:30 p.m., to engage in the discussion with the commission in regards to the 2024 pool season. They'll have the same information presented to them by Josh and I on that Monday night. And I'm confident that they would like to have a dialogue with you as a board to kind of just hear the same information and be able to determine the right path moving forward for the 2025 season.
Yeah.
As a
this-
synopsis,
I was gonna say,
I'll
this
just
is
go
the
over it for everyone.
first that any of us are probably reading this, so whatever you can share that would
Yeah,
draw our
I'll just do a
attention would
brief
be great.
synopsis rather than reading word for word what he had stated, and then you can take the package with you and have the opportunity to read it before you see it with the commission. So 2024 season, essentially, he noted that they saw an increase all around. Not only when there was swimming lessons, but also when there wasn't lessons in session. So approximately 200 people on each side of that. So if there's swim lessons, he noted swim lessons in general, there was a major uptick, which we anticipated. So we went from 252 people signed up last year. This year, it was 492 people. With that being said, there were some adjustments that had to be made, and he was very crafty to accommodate everyone, and no one got turned away. So additional swim lessons were added. Is a way that staff can get people through the door a little bit more quickly because they've registered. And so they decided to buy 2,000 of those swimming classes and ran out when they hit 2,500. So at that point, they stopped purchasing swim passes and just had people sign in. They also explored adding an extra hour of swim, and it was definitely well received. And that being said, given the number of increase of individuals that had been participating and utilizing the facility, it's been determined that in 2025, we're going to keep open for that extra hour, so that way everybody can utilize the facility. And then next I'll go over some slides with you to give you some insight as to where we're at with the pool and need of repairs and things that we should be discussing with the commission as well as through the CIP process, and planning on what we're going to do with the facility in terms of updating it for ADA compliance, and as well as addressing the Mars site. So the photos that I'm going to show you next are from yesterday, actually. And as a side note, it's not noted inside of this document, but Rosemary was kind enough to provide a donation to the pool, and Josh coordinated efforts along with Trina, our administrative assistant, and purchased swimsuits so that those individuals that didn't have one and were coming to the pool were then given the opportunity to have one, and then they could utilize the facility with the proper attire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. You don't think about those things, do you? Like, 'cause people show
No,
up in
no,
shorts and it's not great for the pool and, yeah, thank you.
So I'm gonna pull open the pictures first. So here you will see, this is where the office is for staff to, specifically Josh and Jim, who's in charge of maintaining the pool's chemical balance and helping us get the pool started up. So this is their office space, and they can do all the proper paperwork. This is the concession area. This is the concession area viewing from the lobby. The check-in area, a view from the lobby going towards the locker rooms. Again, the check-in area viewing from the locker room to the lobby. So there are some issues that need to be addressed in the future. Right now, the handrails, as you can see, they have a few bolts that are holding on the handrails themselves. The Marsite is starting to fail in those locations. And this is the stairs to the shallow end right here. So this would be the corner piece that leads into the deep end. And this particular location is always troublesome with us as staff. It continuously has some cracking and failing. It's been redone last time we did Marsite, it was completely redone. And that was 2020 when the pool was closed. We focused on the shallow end. This is the deep end. Not very many people get to see these images other than staff, just because typically anybody goes to the pool, it's got water in it, so you're not going to see that. But the Marsite is failing in the deep end, as you can see. Maybe it'll help if I do this. Oops, sorry.
Are those considered, are the dark areas considered tiles?
Yeah,
Or
so
they're-
what you see right here is, my cursor? Yeah, you can see it. This is the beginning of the tiled area for the deep end, heading from north to south. And so this is, quite frankly, coming apart and crumbling. This happened last season, and staff got crafty and got in contact with the Marsite company, and we purchased Marsite ourselves, and they did the patchwork. And it's expected that we'll be doing the same thing for the next season, just so that we can make sure that it still stays complete. This is a new part that has failed. Again, we'll do some patchwork. This is some crafty patchwork that was done. These stairs that allow people to exit from the deep end have been getting water underneath them, and by the time that we go to start up the next season, we end up having to repatch them because of the freeze thaw that occurs with the water. Again, another location in the deep end that will have to get patched. And this is the deep end where the lap lanes go. So this is the wall itself, and you'll see that there's some tiles and some Marsite that is missing, and will have to get patched. When we did the project in 2020, it was overlooked, and not by anybody's fault. It just, things were different, and we were trying to get projects done, and limited staff, and trying to do less contact with people. So unfortunately, there was no bead that went between the Marsite and the metal gutter. So water has been getting behind there, and naturally, again, freeze thaw, we're anticipating that there'll be some likely patchwork that we have to do again next season. And just an image of the deep end with no water. Again, tiles are missing, and then this is a overlook from where I was showing you. Primarily where the patchwork is being done is in this vicinity. The other like circular blowout locations are in this area. So we, Josh and I have been communicating with Advanced Pool Services. They're located out of Milford, Michigan, or Highland, Michigan, however, whichever one you want to look at. They're basically right next to each other. In 2020, when they did the shallow area, the cost at that time was $53,800 that the city committed to and did that work. We reached out to the same company, like I said, and they gave us a quote to do some patchwork in the shallow areas, knowing about the handrails in that corner. And then the remaining of the quote is for the deep end that hasn't been addressed. And that total cost is $245,750,000. So, that being said, we have some planning to do on staff's end. It's, you know, the patchwork, it's something that is new to staff, and I commend them for trying to make something work so that way we can open the pool. Thankfully, we have the majority of the patchwork taking place in the deep end, whereas the reason why it was such a pressing issue in the shallow end prior to 2020, and I don't know if anybody would remember this, but frequently people would complain about their feet getting scuffed up because it was so porous, and people, little kids, were just walking out of there with Band-Aids pretty much on a regular basis after they did their swim lessons. So that's why we took the opportunity to focus on the shallow end. And with that being said, the bottom part of the shallow end is intact. And so that's why we just focused on the patchwork for the handrails and that corner that I pointed out to. So that's where we sit with the outdoor area portion of this discussion. Do you have any questions about that?
So the one thing that I do wonder about, knowing that there was cost and most likely they, delivered their services as expected back in 2020. Obviously, this is a drastically, higher amount, looking at $250,000. Do they have any level of guarantee of their service and the MARS site, not failing within a particular amount of time, or is it you do the service and you get what you get, and if it buckles up in the next season and it's still damaged, that it's your issue? Simply, I wouldn't doubt that they did what they needed to do back in 2020 for those particular areas, but when you look at it, most places would want some level of knowing what we can expect with longevity, or is there any kind of a guarantee that they would come back out and do that patchwork instead of having you guys do it if it was to fail within a season or something? It'd be nice to, I know that's not on here, but for the city's purpose, wouldn't it be nice to know if they could do that?
Yeah, all good talking points and have been discussed internally. I have some work to do along with Josh, and we'll be visiting a number of communities over the course of the wintertime that have outdoor facilities, because my tendency is to think that the way that we maintain the pool during the winter season, when the pool season is done, is probably not the most proactive in terms of the MARS site. Matter of fact, the city manager and I were having a discussion today. And if you think about it, if a residential individual has an outdoor pool, they don't empty their pool out every year.
Correct.
They cover it. And the reason why we got going into that direction of the conversation was because earlier this year, I had the opportunity to go to Kalamazoo for a seminar, and Jake Walston and I got there earlier than we needed, and so we decided to drive around their park system just to see what they had, and they had an outdoor pool, which was covered. So we as staff have to look at things a little bit more closely and how we're doing things. This might have been the way to do things when it first opened, and it's always just been down that way, but it may not be the right way. And so we have to identify if what we're doing is what's essentially creating these issues in terms of the MARSite failing. I don't know anything about MARSite other than it cures in the water, and that's kind of incredible. But other than that, I don't know anything about MARSite, so I have to educate myself on that and what it can tolerate. Are we jeopardizing the MARSite by having winters freeze, thaw, and its elements? It could be that. So there's some homework that we have to do on our end.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, is the higher cost this go around related more to the scale, like the scope of what needs to be done?
Yes, I
Or
would say that that's.
it's just a lot more work?
Yes, it's a
More
lot,
so than
well, it's a lot more
inflation?
square footage too.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
and then you add inflation and. you
Yeah,
add-
all those components, absolutely.
Okay, but it's mostly, it's just, it's not that the price has gone up 500%, it's that.
Right.
It's just a lot more.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else about Mars?
Is Advanced, is this the only one that we're getting a quote from, or do we have a
No,
contract with
no.
them?
When we go to actually do the project itself, excuse me. Excuse me. When we go to do the actual project, we would have to do competitive bids.
Yeah.
But in the CIP process, which will be taking place here in the late fall through the winter, we will reach out to another company that we know of. It's actually called B&B Pools. They're out of Livonia. And we'll reach out to them and get a quote as well.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, so I showed you the pictures of the inside of the facility. The next thing I'm going to explain to you that is located in your packet and will be a topic that we'll work on further is the facility itself. So last winter, there was an architect company that we were communicating with. It doesn't say where they're from, which that doesn't matter. Over the course of the time that we have had the pool open and been operating with the way that it's currently designed, we've heard a number of people say that they would prefer to see like a family changing area or a unisex location or something to like be segregated, right? And so in your packet, you'll see that there's a design that we worked on to address those requests. You see that? You can't read it very well because of how small it is, but I can go through and explain to you what you're looking at. So in this area, this is the lobby. This area right here is our mechanical room. And then this location, I can't even read it on there. It would be proposed as the new office. And then this area would be proposed as our new barrier-free bathroom changing area. Right now, this is the current office. Yes, this is the current office right here. And this is the concession area. So then it would be proposed to rearrange the checkers area because there's a number of square footage that is not utilized to the best of its capacity, the way it's designed right now. So if we used all the space that is there and available, we could continue to do the checkers duties as well as put the concession area here. And then renovations of women's and men's bathroom, and then likewise renovations to the dressing area, namely in this vicinity where you would have showers placed against the wall that have partitions, likewise for the men's facility. And then the toilets would go in these locations. Further discussion has included, and it's not shown on this drawing, but as you see, as you exit the locker room, there are these L-shaped, I guess would be the best way to describe it, partitions, so that when you're exiting the locker room, you have a sense of privacy, because then people can't view into the locker room. And so the thought was, is if this actual facility was done, we would replicate that same L shape on this location where the unisex or family restroom, whichever you want to label it, would have that same barrier. In that particular project, when we were discussing it in the wintertime, had an approximate cost of $200,000 to $225,000, and that was in last year, 2023. So add 25% to that is probably close. Yes.
Is there a shower in that bathroom?
In this bathroom, it doesn't.
Like, cause they could enter, go in there, use it, and go straight into the pool area.
Correct. That's what's proposed. I don't
And
see one.
It looks like there is
You
one.
have to shower before you go in. I mean, not a big deal, but. I'm just-
Technically, we ask people to do it. Does anybody police it?
Right.
Probably not. But no, that's a good note. I can definitely make a comment on that.
Or maybe that is a shower right there.
I think so, because you can see a
It's a
toilet
shower.
and you can see.
Yeah, that's
a
gotta
sink.
be a shower.
That is a
I don't think
shower.
it's a bed.
Yeah.
It looks kind of like a bed on the drawing, but that very well
Or
could
just
be
like a
shower.
change, yeah, it's probably a shower because
Yeah.
I think those are changing areas or.
It looks like it's got like a little like blue highlight or something on it, like the other showers. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would suggest water to me.
Oh, yeah, it is, it looks exactly like the showers up here.
Mhm.
In the, yeah. Good eye.
So, do you have any questions about this? There's two documents here that you see. The floor plans are relatively the same, except for on versus A1 to A2. The difference that I see is in the men's and the women's shower area is a dryer wall is proposed in the men's shower area, and then rotating the sink in the women's. Is the difference I see from A1 to A2.
So a question that may not have an answer yet is, as you're looking at upwards of potentially, $500,000 to get the facility to where we'd like it to see. We saw how the pool season went. Do you feel like that would only be accomplishable with external monies and grants to support a significant amount of it, such as through some of the state grants that we get? Or has there ever been any talk within the city that does the general budget, really have a place for that kind of, investment in our parks?
Yeah, I mean, that will be part of our CIP discussions and moving forward at the park board level. When we have closer dollar amounts, I'll bring to you, like I normally do, a list of priorities that we'd like to have for the park system. This would fall underneath that template. And then in terms of grants, I spoke to the grant coordinator today, and she is actively looking for grants. So it's something that is being seriously looked at.
How extensive, like I see this floor plan and I see that like, okay, we're shifting stuff around, put a little wall in here or there. How much of these renovations are gonna like cover things like ceilings, floors, walls, fixtures? Like,
Sure.
I mean, like, I imagine it's not gonna be completely gutted, but like, I'm just
Updating,
Yeah.
more or less, yeah. I mean, yeah, if we're gonna invest that kind of money, we're definitely gonna make sure that we don't just leave the 1922 paint on there, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, it definitely would be a full project.
like people are gonna walk in and they're gonna be like,
Yes, that would be the intent.
Yeah.
Not only to, put ourselves into, universal ADA compliance and what have you, but also just recognizing that the facility is dated and it needs to be updated.
Have your like staff walkthroughs unearthed any external facility things that have come to the potential of needing substantial, like roof or siding or window or anything else that this wouldn't accompany, that could come up on the city if they don't think about like including that. I'm just wondering if any of those have been issues.
No, well, I mean, as there are need of repairs, they are addressed at the time.
Okay.
But do we need a brand new roof and do we need brand new windows and all that? That hasn't been explored. This has all just been conceptual. So that will definitely be looked at. You don't want to dump $225,000 in a facility renovation and then have a leaky roof. That's for sure.
And how much would it cost to put a roof over the pool?
Thing. That's our dream.
Yeah, that would be
To
the
close the whole thing.
grand dandy. Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't know.
the reason I'm especially bringing it up now, although I always bring it up, is I just wonder how much better the Marsite might last if instead of just covering the water area, like it was just active all year. Like, would we get more life out of it, less life out of it? Like, we put $200,000 into Marsite this year, and if we have to do it again in 8 to 12 years, which is the lifespan of Marsite, which I think would be a pretty good run, given the previous repairs that we've had to do in the schedule, then like how long is it before a roof over it would have paid for itself?
Sure. I mean, when we start looking at CIPs and stuff, it doesn't hurt to put numbers on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great update.
Yeah.
Have we compared any plans of municipal pools to others?
That's what I'll be working on over the wintertime. Initially, we did that when we went to the Pulsar, which was probably, I want to say, 10 years ago when we changed how we chlorinate the facility. And we did do just that. We went to different municipalities and inspected and had conversations with other staff to find out what was successful in that.
Very good.
Anything else?
The only thing I would say is that the pool report was really, really well done. Had some really good news in there, so, just the news guy in me is just always thinking about just positive news and,
Sure.
for Steve, and also maybe for the Pioneer and the radio station, so
Yeah.
just something for us to think about.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of good working parts through the whole entire season. I agree.
Can you, do you know what the age ranges were for participants in the lessons?
I don't know, but Josh probably would do it.
I was just
Have
curious.
that right off the top of his head. He basically lived down there all
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah, I was just curious what percentage of like the I don't know, swim lesson age population was served by the pool this year. Like, we have really nice numbers, but I'm like, did we go from 10% of our youth that are in elementary school or swim lesson age? Did we go from 10% to 30%, or did we go from like 40% to 90%? Right? Like, how many more kids do we need to try to ensure are going to be safe in water? Right? Like, how good of a job are we meeting the public? So
I can have him make sure he's got an answer to that on
I'm
Monday.
guessing he knows.
He probably does, but I'll just get it on his radar so he
Thanks.
has an answer.
Good questions.
So am I to understand that I remember being particularly leery of our setting the pool fees free. I was very worried about that. That we have increased, I believe, 100%.
But basically,
our
no additional
pool
cost.
use.
It's increased drastically, correct?
But basically at no
Wow.
additional cost, right? Like we didn't have substantially
Well, there
more.
was more staff that had to get on board, but I mean, that was expected.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if
but
you're
it's
gonna
like
offer
we
more
didn't,
swim lessons, you need more
we
staff
didn't
and
need more
things of
like
that nature.
water
But I was
cleaning
very
or-
worried
Right,
about,
nothing like
you know, if you make it free, it has no value. And boy, was I wrong.
You know, I recently read that
Golly.
people that can admit that they're wrong, that's a sign of intelligence.
There we go.
Yeah.
So,
Any other questions about the pool?
you said that there's a commission meeting that
Monday, yep, the 16th,
The
at
16th.
6:30. And Joshua and I will be here doing the same presentation on information regarding the facility, and they will most appreciate your participation.
Heather, you know, some years we talk about the budget, the income, the expenses. Is that going to be at all part of what you present, or what is presented to the commission? Is it going to go into the budget at all of the pool, or is that kind of for later on? Or
I mean, I can make a note that we can talk about what the total expenditures were. It wasn't primarily one of the topics, but we can add that to it, no problem.
I just know that it seemed like, you know, the commission had to look at, okay, we're gonna not have income, $30,000 income that we sometimes do. We've always had $100,000 of expenses. It's just approximately, you know, and then, you know, they were willing to obviously take on that full amount. But like you said, there's some adjustments to what maybe the expenses were, and I imagine that they probably would. For us, I don't think it's as much of a big deal, but I imagine the commission would want to kind of know that. I'd be
The
curious.
only increase in expenses that I can think of off the top of my head would be the additional staffing in comparison to prior years, because other than that, the facility ran the same way it would have regardless if there was, you know, revenue coming in.
Great. Do you have any idea how far down on the commission agenda this is?
It's at the top of the agenda. It's a study session.
So we need to be there right away.
That'd be helpful.
I mean, I know how meetings can go. Sometimes you wait to the very end.
Yeah, no. This
It's
is a
like,
study
okay, I might
session
show up
topic.
30 minutes.
It's
after
meant to
it
be
started.
engaging and have the opportunity to do just like what we're doing, questions and answers.
Super, thank you.
Are we able to move on to our next point of business on the splash passage? Or anything else on the pool? Awesome. So I'm trying to recall. I know we've seen the splash pad rules. I don't think they're in our packet. Is that
They
correct?
should be.
Oh, are they?
I'll just run through them real quick. I would like to present to you some proposed splash pad rules that I think would be beneficial for city staff to be able to manage the facility. These rules actually are taken from other splash pads in municipalities and kind of in a melting pot, basically. So, no lifeguard on duty, splash pad is unsupervised, use at your own risk. Rule number 1, all children ages 10 and under must be supervised by an adult. Number 2, swim diapers are required for all children who are not fully toilet trained. Number 3, no running or rough play. Do not hang or climb on the equipment. Number 4, no food, drink, glass, or other breakable objects, and smoking of any kind. Number 5, no dogs or pets allowed in the splash pad area. Number 6, no bicycles, skateboards, scooters, inline skates, etc. allowed on the splash pad. Number 7, street shoes are not permitted in splash pad. Number 8, no soaps, detergents, or shampoo. Number 9, splash pad may be closed at any time due to weather, maintenance, or other operational concerns. And number 10, open wounds and cuts are prohibited.
So like flip flops would be okay?
Yeah. So if anybody wants to see something deleted, or if you have suggestions to add something, happy to do so. My goal is to have these be a recommendation to the city commission for them to approve. And then I can fabricate a sign so that when the facility opens up next season, I can have the sign posted and visible for all to see.
Is there parking for number 5? Or so I guess 6. Sorry.
Like parking for dogs?
Parking for
rack?
scooters, bicycles.
Oh yeah, I mean, not like
Well,
parking per se, but I mean, there's sidewalk that goes in between the whole
Do
facility.
we have bike racks already kind of planned for that?
Probably in the future. I mean, the facility in itself is new, and so before we start adding additional things, I want to see how it functions. What's the ingress, egress that's used more consistently? Where are we finding issues in terms of where there could be a hazard that needs to be addressed? I don't have a crystal ball, so I figure it's probably best to just see how it functions and then move forward with those additions.
This might be a silly question, because my kids are younger than this, but is 10 an age that people like drop their kids off at a public park alone?
Sometimes. I mean,
Okay.
A 10-year-old could be there with their 14-year-old sibling, but their 14-year-old wouldn't be considered an adult.
I'm just not there yet, so I'm like preparing
I'm just
myself.
like, there are lots of scenarios, right?
It's
What am
plausible.
I supposed to be
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
with this?
I know that in the different community parks, you will get the girls and boys. I have a 12-year-old girl, and they'll walk or ride or skate down to a particular park, use those particular facilities. And I mean, you're right that park has some unique situations and dynamics between, athletics and the Friday evenings and some of the people that utilize the current, picnic area, that parents should be kind of concerned, but I mean, as long as your lawyers are okay with the 10-year-old thing, then, right? It's
well, that's
probably-
what it is for the pool.
Yeah, okay. So a friendly, suggestion on number 4 is it really seems like it could either replace the "and" in front of smoking with an or put "and no smoking." Just the way it reads to no food, drink, other objects, and smoking.
Okay.
Just either putting a "and no smoking" or an "or" would probably just be a more grammatical, clear.
I did have one more question. Will there be a park staff member ever serving the area? I mean, I know they do the bathrooms and.
No, that's a good question. I've been talking about seasonal staff in particular for the maintenance of this facility itself. And the city manager is in agreement that we need to hire somebody as a seasonal staff that is dedicated just to maintaining Hemlock Park. So in my mind, they're blowing off the debris that has accumulated on the playground. They're focused on mowing the grass around the playground. They're spraying down the splash pad, if not every morning, maybe even more often in the afternoon, depending on the amount of use. Likewise for the pavilion, we're anticipating that there will be a high attendance when the peak of the summer season comes around. And so we want to always make sure that it's going to be well maintained.
Your bathrooms facilities will get higher use and might require additional maintaining as well,
So
yeah.
that's the intent moving forward.
So I can only think of one example. It says street shoes are not permitted in the splash pad, but like water type shoes would be.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, could there be some other, like we have a don't list, but could we have a do list? And I'm just like, if it's only like do wear water sandals right? I can't think of, if that's the only one, then there's no point to a do list. But
Yeah, I struggle on that one too, Foster. I don't like the negative tones to it, but at the same token, it's like just tell them what they can't do and be over with it.
yeah, I'm just thinking like in that instance, it's like maybe people don't, they're like, oh no, street shoes, but what does that mean? Like, is this a street shoe? Is that a street shoe? There's so many like
Yeah. I
crossover.
get where you're coming from. Is anybody gonna go police, is this park staff person gonna tell them, get your tennis shoes off?
Yeah,
Probably not, but I mean, at least you can say like you're being conscientious of like, you don't want people to ruin their shoes when they're out using the facility.
yeah. You think it's more about people ruining their own shoes than any kind of damage or?
I mean, it's all concrete, so I can't imagine what kind of damage a tennis shoe is going to do to
Yeah.
a concrete surface. But the same token, I don't know if somebody's got tread on the bottom of their tennis shoes, and then you got 40,000 gallons of water coming out that bucket that's going to send them flying.
Yeah, yeah.
Street shoes bring in a lot more pathogens too.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I think in addition to the signage that you guys will have up with the approved rules, you know, there could be some advanced work that you guys could do to get the publicity out. And then some of that positive language could be,
Yeah.
you know, in
Sure.
that, you know, through social media or some other,
Yeah, that's a
you
good
know,
idea.
ways of getting the word out about the positive stuff that you should do and that you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
No, good
Ava,
thought.
Ava, you and your kids could like, you know, do a little video and like, here's how to use the splash pad and then show people the right
My
way.
kids would love that. They're in for sure.
Do we have
So
to
if
go?
you're satisfied with these and allowing me to take them to the commission for approval, I would just need a motion and a vote and your recommendation.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion before we? And I guess we should say, does the approval include any changes to 4 or is it just as is?
I'm sorry, for what?
Well, number 4, would I just made
Oh, I made the note.
friendly,
Yes.
friendly little
Yeah,
amendment?
I made the note.
Whichever way it reads better. But okay, yeah. I guess all those in favor, we can give our support with our hand up. Okay. I guess that's everybody, right? So. no,
Very good.
There we go. That has passed unanimously, and we'll see how the splash pad in 2025 rolls. It's gonna be fun.
The next topic that we're gonna have a discussion on is the no smoking ordinance that is included in your packet. The current ordinance that is there listed, I believe the first one is it goes into specifics in terms of amenities and specific parks where no smoking is allowed. And so the next document that you have in your packet is an amended ordinance from the city attorney. And essentially what we've determined is that we thought it would be important to take out the specific amenities and the specific parks. And then I will have signs posted where there is no smoking allowed. So they would go, the signs would go by the playground. It would go by the splash pad. It would go by the pavilion. And in this ordinance, it states that any person smoking cannot be in that area within 20 feet. So, prohibition. No person shall smoke in any city buildings or within 20 feet of any city playgrounds, pavilions, parking lots, or other public grounds which are identified by signage as non-smoking or smoke-free areas. And the other amendment was to have smoking as a definition is the act of carrying or holding a lighted cigar, cigarette, pipe, and we added e-cigarette, vape, or other smoking device.
Are those two include softball
No,
areas?
no. So essentially, wherever staff identify with public safety where it needs to be addressed and allow public safety to address those concerned areas. I will work with them to get a sign posted so that way they can enforce this ordinance.
Did your attorneys have any opinion on whether or not there needs to be, so most of these terms refer to a exclusively tobacco-based or nicotine-based product, but like there's no mention of non-nicotine-based things such as, any form of a cannabis, and you get somebody out there that's gonna argue that, well, this isn't tobacco, this isn't that, and even
I
though they're
don't see where it states anything about
I don't-
tobacco.
Me either.
a cigarette, a cigar, e-cig all infer their tobacco. So they're not using the word tobacco. So
Or
they're just,
other smoking device by any person.
Vape. Like, I don't know. What do
Covers
you want?
everything.
You want them to add joint to it? Is that what you're saying?
Rolled something.
Marijuana. So
yeah.
You want them to have cigarette and marijuana cigarette?
I just kind of, some people literally see smoking things as a tobacco-based thing, and they don't recognize, because we have a very big population of smoking non-tobacco-based things.
It covers all smoking of.
The city attorney is the one that actually came up with this ordinance.
Yeah.
So I would say he feels confident
Think he
that
feels
public
confident.
safety will be able to enforce.
And that's the important
Now,
part.
like what, the other thing that you have to remember is that it's a state law where you're not allowed to partake in that type of smoking in a public setting. It's only allowed in their private residence.
It's an under-educated and under-enforced law where it is a state
They'll
law.
get educated quick if they're doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
people know.
I really like how it's defined by where the signs are.
Yes,
So if something changes and you want to move the sign because it's no
Correct.
longer relevant, it's like the ordinance is still good.
right.
Which
We don't want to amend the ordinance every time we add another amenity. Essentially is where we're coming from.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I really like that. It seems really good.
So if everyone is on board with that, just the same as we did with the the splash pad rules, I would need your approval, recommendation to proceed, and then we can take this to the city commission to adopt it.
Briefly, had you thought about chew and dip in places like the splash pad or other places like that could get, I don't know, that it doesn't really fit within this.
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't-
think that that's really what public safety is looking to target.
Okay. Good enough.
I would move that we adopt this ordinance.
Second.
Any discussion before we take a vote? Okay, all those in favor can raise their hand. Okay. Yep. With unanimity, we pass that, and hopefully the city commission can do what they need with it to get ready and enact it into the city ordinances. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that so well.
Yeah, no problem. Our next topic to have a discussion on, and we don't really need to get too in-depth on this one, it's just something for me to put on your radar. And I apologize, but I don't think that the current policy was included in your packet, so I will get that information to you, if not tomorrow, early next week. Currently, we have a policy that essentially guides the park board in terms of allowing for naming of parks themselves. So back in the 90s, there was a ball field that was named after an individual, and it was identified that naming parks after people really shouldn't be the process that the park board goes with. And so what we've done historically since then is if there's an amenity that comes in to a park, there's the opportunity for things to get named. So for example, when the dog park came to Rotary Park, it became the Brutus Dog Park. Another example would be the more current project that everyone's aware of, Hemlock Park. You have the different amenities, the basketball, the pickleball, they're all named after people that made substantial donations. Now, it's been discussed internally along with some city commissioners that it doesn't really have a lot of teeth in the policy itself. And looking at what other municipalities do, there is a specific guideline as to how something gets named in the park system. For example, in Grand Rapids, they go into thorough, in-depth definitions in terms of who would be eligible for having an amenity named after them. So, I can't remember what community, and it doesn't really matter at this point, but there are some communities that will not allow for an amenity or a park to be named after a person unless they've been deceased for a decade. And they had to contribute something to the community in order for that to hold any significance. There's also some definitions in terms of if they had a certain dollar amount, and that would also allow for them to be considered for naming an amenity or a park, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be approved. Internally, we've been focusing more on if a facility is named after an individual or going to be named after an individual, it should probably have a term limit because of the maintenance. So, an example that, again, is the current project, we have the Hemlock Park playground, and it served its life, and it has been removed, and it was known as Playscape. The new playground isn't Playscape. It's a playground. It doesn't have a name. It was funded by the MEDC, and I can't imagine you guys getting too excited about calling it the MEDC playground. So it's just playground, and that's fine. But there should probably be some more thought in terms of our policy and what it is that we want to set the tone in terms of expectations for the names of all these additional amenities that keep coming into our parks, which are great. But we want to make sure that people understand that if you have the memorial splash pad, when it has to get replaced, it probably is going to need to be redone and get a grant or get fundraising and lend itself to an opportunity for somebody else if they desire to have it be named, whether it be after themselves or after, their favorite rainbow color or whatever. So just putting that out there as something to start thinking about. And again, I'll send you the policy so that you have the opportunity to read through it. But I'd be very entertained to hearing some additional ideas that you have. And I can send you some, documents from other communities that I've been researching to see what their policies are. I mean, some of them are like 10 pages long. I'm not looking to go that far. I'm just looking to have us have something that's a little bit more up to date. Because like I said, this conversation took place in the 90s. And so it's just something that probably needs to be reevaluated.
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on the rationale behind concern over names?
Well, I mean,
I can think of some ideas, but like,
Yeah.
what was the impetus in the 90s, and why are people so specific now?
well, I mean, not to discredit anybody for their sponsorships or anything else like that, because I think it's fantastic that people are so willing to give money towards a project and see, the park system getting additions to it. But is it really fair to have so-and-so's name on X amenity because they contributed $10,000, but so-and-so only gave $2,000 and they're never going to be able to give $10,000, but yet their name's going to stay on it for the rest of the time that the park is open until I'm gone, you're all gone?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the mindset behind it.
Okay, there's not like any kind of, I mean, like, people coming to blows over that?
I'm sorry?
Were people coming to blows over, like, I could never have my name on,
No, I wouldn't say that. It's
or
just
were there like a lot of
with
complaints?
all these additional amenities that have been coming into our park system, it's like, how many things do people have to have their names on?
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a skate park, there's gonna be, I mean,
Exactly.
you know,
There's going to be additions to our park system. You're exactly right. I mean, the skate park is being funded by a grant, and they'll get their sign up there that's got to stay there forever, but it's not named right now. Nobody's, like, gave $20,000 to it. Well, I take that back, consumers, but they didn't ask for their name, and I'm not going to ask them.
I mean, I would think that the name of anything is the best name is the name that sticks with people, that leaves a good impression, right? Like if you donated money to have a splash pad and then it's like Dickles Splash Pad, like, I mean, that's probably not the best name. I mean, like, not to make fun of somebody
No,
for
I
the
know.
name, but like versus like, I don't know, like, I'm not gonna come up with anything good.
A
off the top of my
memorial
head.
based
But
one.
also, I mean, how do you weigh somebody who makes a $10,000 donation versus someone who is a community champion for 30 or 40 years,
Okay. Yeah.
but didn't necessarily donate?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I mean,
so how do you weigh
there's
that?
a lot of things that we could button up so that we have better guidance in
Yeah.
terms of how things are going to be addressed moving forward.
Okay. Do you expect that?
I would like to share, I guess, a moment with our entire board. Recently lost a very good friend that passed last week. But I would suggest that naming a park after someone, while things are so emotionally charged, is possibly, well, a mistake. In fact, I would move that our board gives a year after an individual passes to consider their name for one of our wonderful parks to, well, be named.
Yep, and that's all the talking pieces that I think when you guys get that opportunity to review the current policy and bring back some ideas similar to what you just said that right there, and we can talk through that. I probably will request that you can send me any suggestions that you have prior to, so that it can be, pushed together, and then everybody can read them.
I sit here now to ask you all for agreement 1 year.
I think the big concern though is we wanted to be able to look at the existing policy before we make any actions on it. And so maybe by the October meeting or November meeting, we could make or to consider such a motion, but it might be a little premature until we've seen.
I moved what I moved.
Yeah, but for
Okay.
there being a year before naming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not prepared to vote on that positively because I have not evaluated whether or not I think 1 year is the appropriate amount of time. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, as Heather suggested, and wherever. It could be 6 months. If I can't do a little bit of research to contextualize the issues, I would be hesitant to want to vote on a specific time.
I feel the same as Foster.
Okay, so what I'll do, like I said, I'll send the policy to everyone to review so that you're up to date in terms of what we have as a guideline right now. And then I will send you the links to the other municipalities that I just kind of perused through. So that way you can kind of get a feel for what other communities feel. And then we're all
So
on the same
not
page.
seconded, which is reasonable.
Right.
Thank you all
Thank you for
for
bringing that up.
listening
Thank you for bringing that up.
For the
to me.
The process, Heather, will be that you'll send us some information, and then we should reply all to the board with our own suggestions, and then
Sure.
you'll compile that
I'll be the one that compiles
and
it.
bring it back and present it to us as
Yeah.
like, do you approve of this? Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this will be something that's not gonna have to get addressed at the next meeting. I mean, this is gonna take a few months. It's not something that's pressing that has to be taken care of it right now. It's just, it was brought up internally, and like I said before, with a couple commissioners, and they're not wrong. I mean, it's a 1995 policy, so it's
Yeah.
time to just look at it.
I just wanted to clarify how we could best fulfill our own roles in the process.
Yeah, yeah.
So like our chance is through email, primarily.
Just send it to me directly, and
Yeah.
I'll
Okay,
put it all together. It's fine.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Last but not least, I thought I'd share with you an image. This is what's labeled as the Riverwalk fish, just for lack of any other description. The
There's a naming
GFWC, what's that?
So there's a naming opportunity.
Yeah, right, exactly. The GFWC, they reached out to me. They do great things for our community, and this is something that they dropped off at my desk. They're going to be talking as a group to see if they want to move forward with the project. The city manager and I said, this is intriguing, it's fun. What it is metal fish, and they will make a donation to a fabricator to make this fish, and then they would like to see it in.
They dropped that off
No,
at your
no.
desk?
They dropped off the picture.
Yeah, it's actually
But
took her job.
the concept behind it is not only that it's a fun art piece in itself, but it's intended to be for recycling. So they would like to have a sign put up there next to it, encouraging people to recycle their plastic bottles, recycle their cans, and then staff would then go and empty it out on however often it needs to be done, whether that be a weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever. They're still working through the details, but I just thought this was a fun thing to share with you that might be coming into our parks.
It's really cute. How are they going to empty that? Like,
Well, that's part of the concept, is that they're still working through that. I think when I talked to Sue today, her intention is, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but somewhere around here have like a lift gate that would allow for everything to drop out, kind of thing.
okay.
But again, this is just something that they wanted to do, an exciting little project. So
I know it's early, but is there a location thought yet?
I spoke to Sue today, like I said, and she was in agreement that an appropriate location could potentially be, by band shell, pickleball, that kind of area. And then it's also under surveillance as well, so that way we can make sure that if it is being used inappropriate. I think it's quite big, honestly. I don't know. I mean, because there's a picnic
I'm
table
like
there
trying
in the
to
background.
get a. Yeah, do you know about how tall that is?
I haven't a clue.
I could see a teenager diving right into it,
Yeah,
especially
but
if there's
why?
water bottles in it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
Looks more than 6
Okay.
feet tall. Looks pretty big.
I think my biggest concerns are just like, if there's not a liner in there, that thing might need to be pressure washed.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I don't know how long it's gonna last,
Yeah,
but who cares?
Yeah.
It looks cool. Like,
Yeah.
let's do it.
We like fun things in the parks.
Yeah. If it lasts 3 years, like great. If it lasts 30, great. Like,
Exactly. So that's all I have for you this evening.
it's a lot of stuff.
Thank you.
we don't really need to have any of the committees get together, do we? And then
Not that
proceeding
I'm
with it?
aware of.
Okay.
Just again, if you could put it in your calendar to come to the commission meeting on Monday, that would be appreciated. Okay?
Is there any unscheduled business that anybody needs to bring up before we put the meeting to a close?
I'm really excited about the graffiti wall that I think is gonna be included with the skate park. I did talk to Heather a little bit via email about my interest in it, and then I met with Megan Epley about grants, and I heard back from her that it looks like it should have funding. I was hoping that she might be able to tell me more about the plan for it and like what research has gone into it. And she didn't seem to know much other than like it's gonna be like maybe a cinder block or cement wall, and there might be rules.
It's all really green right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did like reach out to a couple other small towns around the country. There's actually a website that you can go to that's like legal walls or something, and it's got every wall that you're allowed to graffiti on in the world. Of course, there aren't that many in Michigan that are listed, and a lot of listings are old, but I was able to find a few smaller towns between like 30,000 to 2,000 residents, because I don't think like someplace like LA or Detroit is gonna give us relevant information to what we should expect. But I did hear back from one of them. I had a nice like Facebook conversation with them. They said that they don't have any oversight officially in their town. They're pretty much the person that oversees it because they're the artist that uses it the most. They said they see a lot of like profanity and what you'd expect, and you know, it's, you just go and cover it up. They said they preferred concrete as a surface, which I thought was really useful information. I thought that plywood, that I see a lot of like plywood walls that are like basically like a billboard that have been made. And I think that there are some advantages to that, in the sense that if there was a really cool piece that was on it that the artist or someone else wanted it before it got destroyed, it could be an annual thing where panels are sold to be replaced, and then that's a way that people can share art and save art that is very transient. So I think there's a lot of options and a lot of stuff to explore. They also mentioned that the wall that they had in their town is like L-shaped, so there's a corner, and that did offer some potential for not intended use, like drugs, violence, whatever. They said it wasn't really an issue there, but good lighting would help mitigate that. I do think if we did go with a wall that had a couple of like slight bends in it, whether they're curves or a direct angle, would make the wall have panels that could then become sections, or used to create 3D effects that could be enhance the nature of the wall itself and the way that the art is presented. I don't know. I'm really excited about it.
It's a fun project.
Yeah.
Cool.
Are you ready to adjourn? Awesome. Well, let's adjourn this meeting at 7:46. The next meeting, October 10th, 6:30.